Should you file as married filing separately for your student loans? There's a couple important things that you want to consider. The reason that you would file separately for student loans is only under one scenario. You have student loan debt and your spouse has no student loan debt or almost no student loan debt. If you're filing separately and your spouse also has significant debt, especially from professional school, that is a very common mistake and it is unnecessary. You could be creating penalties that are totally useless for your situation because it doesn't actually reduce your payment. Let me explain why. Assume you have two people making $100,000 a year and their total income is $200,000. They get a deduction for their family size. Let's just assume it's, in the neighborhood of, say, $20,000. And so then they have $180,000 left over, and then the government will take 10% of that. So that's $18,000 towards their student loans. Divide that into 12, it's about $1,500 a month. Now, what happens is a lot of people think, oh goodness, I'm going to have to pay $1,500 a month and my spouse will too. So that's not what they do. They take that joint payment and they actually distribute it according to what percentage that you have in debt. So pretend for a moment that you have $300,000 in debt and your spouse has $100,000 in debt. You have 75% of the debt. So 75% of that $1,500 payment would go to your debt, and then 25% of the payment would go to your spouse's loans. That is how you figure out what the payment will be distributed like. So a lot of people file separately for no reason, and since married filing separately is usually more expensive than married filing jointly, they generate a tax penalty that's entirely unnecessary. Now, in other situations, you might make $65,000 a year and your spouse might make $90,000 and have no student loan debt. In that case, if you file as married filing separate, your tax penalty is likely to be pennies on the dollar compared to filing separate and excluding your spouse's income on your student loan payment. For example, if you're doing the pay-as-you-earn plan and you make about $65,000 and your spouse makes $90,000, your payment together, if you file jointly, might be something like $1,200. But if you file separately, your payment might only be, say, $350 or $400. That difference in the payment is $700 or $800 a month. And then you look at your tax penalty for married filing separate, and you'd see, wow, my tax penalty, maybe it's only $50 a month. So since $700 is better than $50, you'd choose married filing separately. Now, you only want to do married filing separately if you're going for forgiveness. In the case of income-driven loan forgiveness, you should be prepared to file separately for potentially decades. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that there's any problem with your relationship or the government's going to come after you. It just means that you're going to have a little bit extra complication, and if you can exclude hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month in extra payments you would have to make otherwise, then it's probably worth it because you get to stay married, you get to be married, not have to worry about filling out extra forms if you're trying to do a spiritual marriage like some of our clients do. And that's going to allow you to have the optimal savings that's possible in your situation. And in community property states, when you file separately, it creates unique issues where you have to equalize incomes and either use your tax return if it's advantageous, or in some cases you might use alternate documentation of income to exclude your tax return from the calculation of your payment. There's all kinds of complexities with this and too many to really cover in one video. So if you have student loans and you're trying to figure out your tax filing status or what it should be for future years, reach out to us. We are here to help. Just reach out to help@studentloanplanner.com. Alternatively, you can visit our site, studentloanplanner.com/help, and we would love to hear from you to figure out what we can do to try to get clarity on this very complex situation for your life. We've advised thousands of people. We would love to make a custom plan just for you, though. I'm Travis with Student Loan Planner, and thank you so much for watching.